Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Backyard Politics. I'm Nikki. Tulsi Gabbard put out an op-ed the other day, and I thought it needed some attention. It also helps Bernie and backs what the progressives have been saying this entire time. Tulsi Gabbard, presidential candidates must also condemn election interference by U.S. intelligence agencies. Reckless claims by anonymous intelligence officials that Russia is helping Senator Sanders are deeply irresponsible. So was former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg's calculated decision Tuesday to repeat this unsubstantiated accusation on the debate stage in South Carolina. Enough is enough. I am calling on all presidential candidates to stop playing these dangerous political games and immediately condemn any interference in our elections by out-of-control intelligence agencies. A, quote, news article, end quote, published last week in the Washington Post which set off yet another manufactured media firestorm, alleges that the goal of Russia is to trick people into criticizing establishment Democrats. This is a laughably obvious ploy to stifle legitimate criticism and cast aspersions on Americans who are rightly skeptical of the powerful forces exerting control over the primary election process. We are told the aim of Russia is to sow division, but the aim of corporate media is self-serving politicians pushing this narrative is clearly to sow division of their own by generating baseless suspicion against the Sanders campaign. So the Washington Post broke news that Russia was trying to help the Sanders campaign. The Washington Post is owned by Jeff Bezos. I mean, Bernie pushed for the Stop Bezos Act, and it made Jeff Bezos pay $15 minimum wage to his workers. So, like, they're not friends. Goes on to say, it's extremely disingenuous for journalists and rival candidates to publicize a news article that merely asserts without presenting any evidence that Russia is helping Bernie Sanders, but provides no information as to what that help allegedly consists of. The American people have the right to know this information in order to put Russia's alleged interference into proper perspective. It is a mystery why the intelligence community would want to hide these details from us. Instead, it is relying on highly dubious and vague insinuations filtered through its preferred media outlets, which seem designed to create a panic rather than actually inform the public about a genuine threat. All this does is undermine voters' trust in our elections, which is what we are constantly told is the goal of Russia. If the CIA, FBI, or other intelligence agency is going to, or any other intelligence agency is going to tell voters that Russians are interfering in this election to help certain candidates or simply sow discord, then it needs to immediately provide us with the details of what exactly it's alleging. Otherwise, all it is doing, is fomenting a sense of powerlessness and paranoia in the voting public, which could suppress engagement in the electoral process, and, at least according to the anonymous officials speaking menacingly to the media, that is precisely what Russia wants. If our political leaders and those in the media were really concerned with protecting the integrity of our elections from outside manipulation instead of just making money from manufactured hysteria, they would presumably devote more coverage to proposals to institute backup paper ballots, which would ensure that no malicious actors can even alter our votes or hack into our election infrastructure. Sorry, there's a glare on this, so it's hard for me to read it. The bill I reintroduced last year, the Securing Americans Elections Act, does exactly that. but the media has never shown much interest because it would not generate the so-called bombshell headlines they so desperately crave. The FBI, CIA, or any other intelligence agency should immediately stop smearing presidential candidates with innuendo and vague, evidence-free assertions. That is antithetical to the role these agencies play in a free democracy. The American people cannot have faith in our intelligence agencies if they are pushing an agenda to harm candidates they dislike. Any attempts to keep the American people quiet with the threat that if they dare criticize the Democratic Party establishment, they will be labeled hostile foreign agents, are unacceptable and disgraceful. This new McCarthyism must be renounced by every presidential candidate, otherwise we must conclude they lack the foresight and integrity required to lead our country. If candidates are too afraid to stand up against those who would suppress the voices of the American people with McCarthyist smears, they are not real leaders. They are just power-hungry, self-serving politicians whose goal is to play act as president, rather than actually defend the freedoms enshrined in our Constitution. It is now clear that the mainstream corporate media and the warmongering political establishment are seeking to do two things. One, create enough suspicion around Sanders by falsely tarnishing him as a puppet of Russia that loses the election. Two, or, at the very least, if Bernie wins the Democratic nomination, force him to engage in inflammatory anti-Russia rhetoric and perpetuate the new Cold War and nuclear arms race, which are existential threats to our country and the world. The strategy worked very well with President Trump. Trump has spent his entire presidency trying to prove to the media that he is not Putin's puppet by carrying out extremely aggressive policies that have brought us closer to nuclear war with Russia than we have been in decades. If Sanders is the Democratic nominee, the corporate media will do everything they can to turn the general election into a contest of who is going to be tougher on Russia. This tactic is necessary to propagandize the American people into shelling over their hard-earned tax dollars to the Pentagon to fund the highly lucrative nuclear arms race that the military-industrial complex craves. In the most recent appropriations bill last year, the Pentagon was handed $738 billion, which includes a blank check for dangerous new nuclear warheads and destabilizing missile systems that increase the likelihood of catastrophic war with Russia. The question facing any potential Democratic nominee is this: am I going to allow myself to be manipulated and forced into a corner by overreaching intelligence agencies and the corporate media where, in order for me to win the presidency, I'm going to have to do what I know is not in the interests of the American people and world peace? Or will I stand up to the corrupt neocon and neoliberal establishment, condemn their lies, smears, and act with the integrity and foresight necessary to forge a rational policy that will serve all our interests? The problem with Trump is that he talks tough against the media and the intelligence agencies, but he was not strong enough to stand up to their pressure. He was cowed into trying to prove that he is not a puppet of Russia, and as a consequence has brought us closer and closer to nuclear war. The Democratic nominee cannot make the same mistake. Our country and the world are depending on it. So that is in the words of Tulsi Gabbard. And we spent $738 billion on our defense budget, but we can't afford Medicare for all. That's fucking hilarious. So I know she has been smeared relentlessly in the mainstream media, and this is obviously a huge reason why. Let's see here. So this is back in 2017. A lot of you might not know this. And for those of you that do, Will be a nice refresher.
Earlier today,
Whoops.
Today we heard from Donna Brazil that what many people had suspected for a long time has turned out to be true. The DNC secretly chose their nominee over a year before the primary elections even occurred. This shines a light on how deeply broken our campaign finance laws are and how they've weakened individual candidates while strengthening and empowering political parties and special interests. These laws essentially allowed the Clinton campaign to bypass individual campaign contribution limits by funneling millions of dollars through the DNC and state parties, taking control of the DNC in the process. Along with the recent retaliatory purge of Bernie Sanders and Keith Ellison supporters from the DNC's executive committee, this is just further evidence that the DNC needs to be completely overhauled to take our party back from the special interests of a powerful few and put it back in the hands of the people. We must bring about real campaign finance reform. We must get rid of the undemocratic system of superdelegates. We must implement open or same-day registration in Democratic primaries to actually encourage voter engagement. We must care more about people than protecting the status quo. No more games, no more retaliation, no more picking of winners and losers. We must act now to take back our party, a party that belongs to the people, and fight for a new path forward that is open, transparent, and accountable, and that strengthens our democracy.
Sounds vaguely familiar to today, doesn't it? So, she has been smeared relentlessly, like I said. People call her so many disgusting things, but Russian asset is one of those things. And it's really hilarious and pathetic to me that she can be called that, Trump can be called that. The Russians are supposedly helping Trump and Tulsi and Bernie and God knows who else. The Russians are supposedly helping everybody except the Democratic establishment. Isn't that a little ironic? And they go extra hard against people that are against profitable wars. So I'm not going to read this whole article, but let me see if I can find the date on it. July 25th, 2019. Tulsi Gabbard sues Google over censorship claims. They're doing a lot of the same stuff to her that they're doing to Bernie. These two are both progressives, and I really think that everywhere that Bernie is lacking, Tulsi makes up for, and vice versa. I think they would make an amazing team. And even if she isn't considered for the VP position, which I really, really hope she is, Secretary of State or anything in the Sanders administration, she would be awesome at. So this article goes on to say that Tulsi is suing Google over claims that the tech behemoth violated her right to free speech. They censored her, and I will put links to all of this stuff in the video in the description box, which if you go to, if you go to right under where I'm talking right now, where it says the title, click the little tiny arrow, and then it'll unfold and give you all the details and info there. So, I wanted you to see this as well. Shit, hang on.
Hillary Clinton has been doing a job ducking Tulsi Gabbard's attempt to serve her with a defamation lawsuit using her Secret Service guards and personal attorneys to block Gabbard's efforts. However, the former Secretary of State and presidential candidate has reportedly finally accepted the papers after lots of media coverage of her denial. It proves you can't hide forever and settles what may become a nasty fight between two Democratic Party favorites. RT correspondent John Huddy has more.
This document.
You can run, but you can't hide forever, even if you're Hillary Clinton. Clinton had been successfully dodging Representative Tulsi Gabbard's efforts to serve her with a $50 million defamation lawsuit by reportedly using her Secret Service guards and personal lawyers to turn the process server away. Well, that is until now. Clinton reportedly finally accepted the lawsuit papers, and the case is now moving forward. FoxNews.com quoted Gabbard's attorney, Brian Dunn, as saying that after the media picked up this story, Ms. Clinton's lawyer changed course and agreed to accept service.
Oh, go figure.
Gabbard filed a defamation lawsuit against Hillary Clinton for comments Clinton made on a podcast back in October, calling the Hawaii Congresswoman a Russian asset and the favorite of the Russians.
They've got their eye on somebody who's currently in the Democratic primary and are grooming her to be the third-party candidate. She's the favorite of the Russians. They have a bunch of sites and bots and other ways of supporting her so far.
But if they can falsely portray me as a traitor, then they can do it to anyone. And in fact, that's exactly the message that they want to get across to you. That if you stand up against Hillary and the party power brokers, if you stand up to the rich and powerful elite and the war machine, they will destroy you and discredit your message.
To win a defamation case, a plaintiff has to prove a number of very important things, including that the comments made about that person resulted in some kind of serious harm and or damages. Defamation cases are some of the toughest to prove in court. Well, to make her point in the court of public opinion, Gabbard recently went on Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News to bemoan Clinton's comments and posted this tweet with a clip of the appearance on her Twitter account where Gabbard has more than 700,000 followers. She also tweeted this video of her snowboarding recently in New Hampshire while on the campaign trail. It's on her Facebook page too, where she has close to 500,000 followers and even advertises for a chance to win a trip to New Hampshire and even go snowboarding with Tulsi. So whether or not Gabbard has been destroyed and her message discredited by Hillary Clinton, and as she described, the rich and powerful elite and war machine will now presumably be part of her case to prove in court. For the news with Rick Sanchez, John Huddy.
Let us not forget
To serve.
Let us not forget that Tulsi resigned from the DNC, like the first video was talking about. She resigned as vice president of the DNC, so to support Bernie because of all the corruption. I didn't want to add all of the videos that I'm talking about because my video would end up being like 4 days long, but feel free to look up any of the stuff I'm saying. Tulsi Gabbard calls on DNC chair Tom Perez to resign. Anytime you call out the establishment, they turn around and smear you. Democratic presidential hopeful Tulsi Gabbard is calling on DNC chairman Tom Perez to step down, going as far as to start a petition supporting his ouster. She's asking that he step down because he is not acting responsibly for the gross failure in leadership. Let's see. She added in the email saying that the trust voters deserve, that voters deserve to be able to trust the DNC, and under him, it's been broken. And then the Hawaii Democrat appeared to take a jab at the DNC's rule change that Perez allowed for accommodations of Michael Bloomberg. But they wouldn't with Booker, Castro, and Tulsi. So this is another example of how she is calling out the establishment. And who are the establishment? Well, the ruling class. Sure. Why is this not working? I have these pictures. It's not responding. Freaking awesome. Here we go. Maybe. Of course, now that I'm this far through the video. There we go. Hey-o! Please. It worked upstairs. This is awesome. Okay. Hillary Weinstein. Pedophile. Hillary was in Epstein's book twice. His black book. The next picture, if I can get to it, is a picture. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, here we go. This damn thing. Never trust Google, huh? For more reasons than this, but it's funny. Okay. Epstein's black book, or on his flight twice, 26 times, and once, I think. I don't remember exactly. I believe it was once. Either way, we're all friends, right? If you want more info on the Epstein stuff, go to the Political Vigilante. Graham Elwood is pretty much the only one now that is keeping that case alive and is talking about it regularly. And he has a whole playlist dedicated to it. So go over to his channel, The Political Vigilante, and also subscribe to it. So here's other photos of the elite ruling class. Buddy, buddy. Oh, there's Epstein. There's Ghislaine Maxwell. Trump. I don't really give a shit about that picture because it is what it is. It's gross, but this picture, though, if we zoom in, which I thought this was hilarious, it makes him look fat and squatty. Clinton, Bloomberg, Trump, Giuliani, all hanging out playing golf. So if you criticize this guy for shit like endless wars, things like that, you also got to criticize this guy, and they're part of the same fucking establishment because all their money comes from the same fucking places. I get irritated because nobody actually follows the money. It's so easy. Let's see here. Okay, so I played this in a different one of my another one of my videos, but it's very fitting, so enjoy.
But there's a reason. There's a reason. There's a reason for this. There's a reason education sucks, and it's the same reason that it will never, ever, ever be fixed. It's never going to get any better. Don't look for it. Be happy with what you got. Because the owners of this country don't want that. I'm talking about the real owners now. The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets. And they own all the big media companies, so they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people.
They don't want people capable of thinking.
Capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it.
And the people who say any blue will do.
And now they're coming for your Social Security money.
Biden.
They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back. so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something?
Boom.
They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it. You and I are not in the big club. By the way, it's the same big club they used to beat you over the head with all day long when they tell you what to believe. All day long, beating you over the head in their media, telling you what to believe, what to think, and what to buy. The table is tilted, folks. The game is rigged. And nobody seems to notice. Nobody seems to care. Good, honest, hardworking people, white collar, blue collar, doesn't matter what color shirt you have on. Good, honest, hardworking people continue. These are people of modest means. Continue to elect these rich cocksuckers who don't give a fuck about them. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't care about you at all. At all. At all. Yeah. You know? And nobody seems to notice, nobody seems to care. That's what the owners count on, the fact that Americans will probably remain willfully ignorant of the big red, white, and blue dick that's being jammed up their assholes every day. Because the owners of this country know the truth. It's called the American dream, because you have to be asleep to believe it.
That was obviously pre-revolution, because unfortunately he's no longer with us. However, we do have actual human beings that are trying to knock down the door of the establishment, and that is Tulsi Gabbard and Bernie Sanders. And Mike Gravel, who was for a little while trying to push the conversation to the left. Look up his old videos on YouTube. He is mind-blowingly ballsy. I mean, he's fucking awesome. Stand up there challenging everybody while they're laughing at him. God. I just can't imagine. So I wanted to end with a quote from Lee Camp, who is awesome as well. Go subscribe to his YouTube. He's on Redacted Tonight. He says, if you're not saying anything important, no one attacks you. And it's so true. So anytime you hear Russia scare or Russian asset or anything like that, you know it's bullshit. Because the people that are being called that are actually calling out things like the military-industrial complex. So, that being said, have a great day. Enjoy the sun if you have it. We do for a little while. It's cold, but it's sunny. So, yeah, Medicare be with you.